It started when I took a seasonal position at a remote grain storage facility outside a small town in Nebraska. The job looked harmless. Night monitoring basic maintenance, checking alarms, making sure the silos stayed stable. No boss breathing down your neck, just long, quiet shifts. I needed the money, so I accepted. They sent me out with another worker for training. His name was Caleb Mercer, mid-40s, quiet guy with tired eyes. On the drive out, he didn't talk much, just said, "Out here, silence isn't always empty. You'll learn that fast." I laughed it off at the time. The facility sat miles away from anything. Flat fields in every direction, broken only by old fences and dead trees. The main building was a faded concrete block with a single light buzzing above the door. The silos rose behind it like giant shadows. That first night already felt off. Situation was simple. Caleb showed me the routine. Check locks, walk the perimeter, listen for pressure shifts in the grain towers. He made it sound like listening to a sleeping animal, but the way he said sleeping stuck with me. Around 1:10 a.m., I heard something scrape across the metal catwalk above us. I looked up. Caleb didn't. He just said, "Don't respond to sounds you can't place." I asked what he meant. He didn't answer. Then came the first real incident. A low thumping from inside one of the silos. Slow, rhythmic, like something knocking from the inside walls. I checked the pressure gauge. It was normal. Caleb finally stood up, walked halfway toward the silo door, and placed his hand on the metal. The thumping stopped instantly. "What is that?" I asked. He looked at me for a long moment and said, "If it's new to you, don't name it yet." That night I barely slept. Over the next few shifts, things started shifting from odd to wrong. Tools would be rearranged when no one touched them. The radio would pick up voices that sounded like mine, repeating phrases I never said. Once I saw footprints in the dust inside the storage bay. Barefoot, fresh, leading into a wall with no door. Caleb stopped answering my questions directly. He just kept repeating the same rule. Don't acknowledge patterns that repeat where they shouldn't. On the fourth night, I came in alone. Caleb had been pulled into town for equipment checks, but he didn't look convinced when he left. That was the first time I felt like I was being watched by the building itself. The lights flickered every 30 minutes exactly. I started timing it. It wasn't random. It was consistent, like a heartbeat trying to match something outside. At 2:47 a.m., the radio turned on by itself. A voice came through. Mine. It said, "You already walked past it." I froze. I checked every door in the facility. Everything was locked. Everything was empty. Then I saw it. A shadow standing between two silos outside, completely still. Too tall to be a person. It didn't move even when the wind pushed against it. I grabbed the flashlight and aimed it directly at it. Nothing. No reflection. No detail. Just absence shaped like a man. Then it stepped forward. That's when the situation became something else entirely. I ran back inside and slammed the door shut. The metal rattled like something hit it from the outside, but there was no impact sound. Just vibration like pressure without force. The radio clicked again. This time it wasn't my voice. It was Caleb's. He said, "Don't let it learn your timing." I shouted into the radio asking where he was, but all I got was static followed by breathing that didn't match human rhythm. Then silence. For maybe 10 minutes nothing happened. That was worse, because I knew it was waiting for something. I checked the silo gauges again. All normal, but the numbers were shifting in a pattern that matched my footsteps exactly. When I stopped moving, the numbers stopped changing. That's when I realized it wasn't inside the silo anymore. It was tracking me through the system. I tried to leave the control room, but the door wouldn't open. Not locked, not jammed. It just didn't respond, like the idea of leaving didn't apply anymore. Behind me, the radio turned on one last time. Caleb's voice, weaker now, said, "Don't look directly at it when it finishes sinking." I turned slowly. The control room window faced the yard. All the silo lights were on now, even though I hadn't switched them. And standing in the middle of them was that same shape, closer this time, more defined, but still wrong. like reality was trying and failing to render it properly. It raised its arm, and every gauge in the room dropped to zero at the exact same second. The silence after that was different. Not empty. Controlled. The intercom inside the building clicked on even though there was no power cycle. A calm voice came through, almost polite, like reading from a manual. It said, "Sync complete. New observer detected." The word observer hit me harder than anything else, because I realized it wasn't hunting me. It was assigning me. The windows outside went dark one by one, not like lights turning off, but like something closing its eyes in sequence. The silo doors unlocked themselves at the same time. I heard footsteps inside the walls. Slow, matching mine exactly even when I stood still. Then Caleb's voice came one last time, not through the radio this time, but from right behind me. He said, "I tried to leave before it finished learning me." I turned. Nothing was there, but my own voice answered from somewhere in the room, finishing a sentence. And it didn't let me forget. The system beeped once. All records reset. And I don't think I left that facility the night I thought I did. Because every morning after that, I wake up feeling like I've already worked the shift before it starts. And sometimes when it gets quiet enough, I still hear the silos counting me back. I was 26 when I took a rural job on a cattle ranch deep in eastern Wyoming, near a forgotten stretch outside a place locals barely mention called Red Hollow Basin. I needed work and I needed distance from my old life. The job was simple on paper. Fence repair, feeding lines, checking water tanks, and helping maintain equipment. I would stay in a small bunkhouse on the property, with no real neighbors for miles. The ranch owner was a quiet man named Harold Whitmore. He didn't waste words. First thing he told me standing by his truck was, "Don't go near the north pasture after sunset." No explanation. Just that. I thought it was just rural superstition. I'd heard plenty of that before. The first few days were normal enough. Early mornings, heavy labor, long, empty horizons. The silence out there wasn't peaceful though. It felt heavy, like the land itself was holding its breath. The cattle avoided the north side completely. Even the dogs on the property refused to go near the fence line that split the ranch in two. That should have been my first real warning. On the third night, I woke up around 2:30 a.m. to the sound of something moving outside the bunkhouse. Not animals, not wind. It sounded like boots dragging slowly across gravel, stopping, then starting again. I got up and looked through the window. Nothing, just the fence stretching into darkness. In the morning, I asked Harold if someone was patrolling at night. His face tightened. "Nobody walks at night here." That was all he said. 2 days later, while fixing a broken section of fencing near the north pasture, I found something strange tied to the wire. It looked like a piece of cloth at first, but when I got closer, it was a work glove, soaked dark stiff, like it had been there too long, and not long enough at the same time. When I brought it back to the house, Harold didn't even touch it. He just stared at it and told me to burn it immediately. His voice wasn't angry. It was controlled fear. That night, everything changed. No wind, no insects, no distant animal sounds. The whole ranch went completely silent in a way I had never experienced before. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. This time they were closer. On the porch. I sat frozen in the bunkhouse watching the door. The wood creaked once, like someone had leaned into it. Slowly, deliberately. Then nothing. Until the scratching started. Not fast. Not frantic. Slow. Like someone trying to remember how to knock. And then right outside the door, a voice whispered my name. I didn't answer. The voice came again, closer this time, almost pressed against the wood. "Open up. You're working my side of the fence." That sentence didn't make sense, but it made my stomach drop. I reached for my flashlight and stepped back. The porch light flickered once, then died completely. And in that darkness, I heard something else join the breathing outside. A second set of steps, coming from the north pasture direction. Slow, heavy, dragging. like something was walking back toward the house that should have never been outside the fence line at all. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in a chair by the window holding a flashlight and a small pocket knife like it meant anything out there. Around 3 a.m., the scratching stopped. Then came silence again. That worst kind of silence where you start questioning if you imagined everything. I almost convinced myself of that until I saw Harold walking across the yard, barefoot, no flashlight, just walking straight toward the north pasture fence. I went outside after him without thinking. The cold air hit like a wall. I called his name once. He didn't respond. He kept walking. When I reached the fence line, I saw him standing there staring into the dark field beyond it. His shoulders were tense like he was bracing for something. That's when I heard movement inside the pasture. Not cattle, something dragging itself through tall grass. Harold finally spoke without turning around. It comes back when someone crosses over. I asked him what he meant, but he didn't answer. Instead, he pulled something from his coat pocket, a rusted fence key and an old leather tag with initials carved into it. He said, "This ranch used to belong to my brother. He crossed the line. He didn't come back the same." Before I could ask anything else, the fence rattled hard, like something on the other side had grabbed it. Harold stepped back slowly and whispered, "Don't look directly at it." But I did, and I wish I hadn't. In the dark pasture, something was standing, not fully formed at first, just a shape that didn't match anything natural. Too tall, too thin. Its arms hung too long, brushing the ground when it moved. And then it stepped closer. Its face, if you could call it that, looked wrong. Like someone had tried to remember a human face and failed halfway through. It spoke again using my name, but this time it wasn't just a whisper. It sounded like it was coming from inside my head. Harold suddenly ran, not away from it, toward the barn. I followed without thinking. Inside, he slammed the door and locked it, breathing hard. He told me the truth in pieces. The ranch had an old boundary fence built decades ago, not just for cattle, but to keep something contained in the north pasture. Something that didn't belong in any normal explanation. And someone had broken that boundary years ago. Since then, it never fully left. It just waits. The barn lights flickered. Outside, the footsteps returned, now circling the structure. Harold handed me the keys to his truck. "Drive and don't stop," he said. I asked him what he would do. He just looked at the wall and said, "I already crossed the line once. It remembers me." I ran for the truck. I didn't look back until I was miles away. But even now, sometimes when everything is quiet at night, I hear boots outside wherever I am. Slow, waiting, like something is still following the sound of my fear.